Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm AndyRC and today I'm going to be checking out the FuriBee X140. Now this is a model that I've been really excited about for a number of reasons. First of all is the price. It's incredibly cheap and I love the 3-inch size, and it's another model by FuriBee which have been knocking out some great models at the moment, and it's got some great specifications. So let's go and have a look and see if it's as good as it is on paper. So first of all, I want to talk about the price because at the making of this video, it's pretty incredible. For the plug and play version, so without a receiver, it's costing just £88. And then with a receiver, it's £94. And the receiver options are the XM for FreeSky, which is the version that I've got here. And then there is a FlySky receiver, which is the 2A protocol, which is the latest protocol, so that's good. And there's also a Futaba receiver option as well. So I was looking at this and thinking, how on earth have they got the price down? Because we've got a Runcam CCD camera at the front, we've got a built-in on-screen display and all the bells and whistles, and then I was looking at the camera and I thought, where's the Runcam logo? And there isn't one. It is not a Runcam Micro Swift. It is a clone of a Runcam Micro Swift, even to the point where it's got the little connector there for the on-screen display. It doesn't come with the controller, so I'd be interested to see what it said when you go on there, but it still is a CCD camera, so I don't think Runcam are going to be very happy about that at all. It does have a slightly different lens than the Micro Swift. It's a 2.3mm lens against the 2.1, but yeah, I haven't seen this camera around. I imagine we're going to see it around quite a lot, which isn't going to be good for Runcam, and I would say just go with the Runcam if you are buying one separately, because they are putting out a lot of fantastic products at the moment, and if people are just going to come along and clone them, then they'll stop development on that. So yeah, it's not like they're crazy expensive. But yeah, not a Runcam, but still a CCD, so I'd be interested to see the performance. So you can change the camera angle with this one quite easily. Just a little screw there, and you are pretty much unlimited to how much it can swivel until, obviously, this part of the frame gets in view. But I think this stock setting will be just fine for myself. So let's take a look at these specifications. The frame is a stretched X and the arms are all individual, which is interesting. We have got 4mm thick carbon, so very thick carbon, and it does look like it's tapered as well, so amazing quality for the price there. The motors are 1306 3100 kV. And then that is leading to a 4-in-1 ESC. It's a 20 amp, and it looks like it's running off a 20x20 stack. So it's flashed with BL S, and the ESCs, according to the website, will take up to a 5S, but the motors are only rated for a 4S, so that should be plenty. The propellers, I don't think they're any particular brand, and they are 3030, 4 blades, obviously. And one thing I want to mention before I go any further is I got this, and you'll notice that some of the motor screws are missing. And when this came out of the box, all of these screws were completely loose, and 4 of them were missing. A complete motor just had 1 screw in there. I'm not sure what that's about. This is a very early model that I've got here, so it could be that, but yeah, make sure these are all tight. All of these ones were tight, but I checked them anyways. So underneath, while we're here, we have got a battery strap. I'm not keen on these battery straps that don't have a feed through. It's Velcro. And then we've got Velcro on here as well, and they give you a piece of Velcro to put on your battery, but I'm not going to be doing that. We've got some cable ties underneath here, which are keeping the wires for the motors, which is quite nice. We have got an XT60 on the back, which I prefer on this size model over the XT30 because my 4S batteries all have XT60 connectors. So then above the ESC board, we have got the flight controller. It's an Omnibus F3, and as I say, built-in on-screen display. It's flashed with Betaflight 3.17. And then above that, we've got a VTX, and that's also built into the stack. Now, the VTX, according to the website, is a 150 milliwatt switcher, but the instructions that you get with it say that it's just a 100 milliwatt switcher, so 25 milliwatt and 100 milliwatt, and yeah, it's got a single button on it to change some of the settings. It's really confusing. We just have two LEDs on the board here, and there's a certain sequence that you have to go through to change the channels. So you have to do a 3-second press, and then these two LEDs, so one green and one red. It says here that the first 3-second press here, it says the red LED flashes at a frequency of 1 and the green LED flashes at the indication of channels. So the lights don't relate to band or frequency. It's sort of like a sub menu. So when the red light is flashing 1 time, then you can change your individual channels. And then another 3-second press here. It says when the red LED is flashing 2 times, then you can go through your 5 different bands on the green light. And then we have got the power output, and again another 3-second press here, and it says red LED flashes at a frequency of 3, and then the green LED sets the power output between 25 milliwatt and 100 milliwatt, and then a 5-second press exits out of that. Really confusing. Oh, I should mention as well, the bands here, A to E, they don't relate to the Fatshark channel, so there's only a couple of Fatshark channels on there, so you might want to check this against the Fatshark table there. And it says here that operating current, so at 5.5 volts at 25 milliwatt, it is drawing 310 milliamps and 350 milliamps at 100 milliwatts. So yeah, lots of information about the VTX. It's just a little bit of a pain with these LEDs, but I guess I can forgive it. And then we have got the sleeve dipole antenna. Now it's just soldered direct to the board, so you'd have to play about with that if you wanted to fit a cloverleaf antenna on there. So I've also routed the antenna for my XM up the top here, and it actually comes with a sticky pad on it, but it's not stuck in, which I actually quite like because that means that you can bind it and then stick it back. One thing I should say about the XM though is there are some versions out there that have dodgy firmware on there and it loses its bind sometimes and you have to rebind it. So yeah, there's that to watch out for with the XM, and if you are more experienced, I would suggest getting the plug and fly version and then soldering that up. So you can see there we've got the signal, the voltage and the ground there just into the flight controller, and then we've got the camera going in there as well. So on the back we've got a LED board that's connected to the DIN and is set up to have the LEDs in a certain sequence in Betaflight. So if you're wanting to flash the latest version of Betaflight and want to retain these lights, then you're going to have to copy some of the stuff out of the CLI. We've got a buzzer on the back here, so like I say, it's got all the bells and whistles. It's a huge buzzer and very loud. So yeah, again, despite the fact that this camera is a clone, we have got a lot of stuff for our money there. There's no battery, so you're gonna have to use your own battery. Now I'm going to be going straight to this 4S battery. It's a Turnigy graphene battery and it's 750 milliamp 4S high C rating, and with a battery it weighs 239 grams, which is under the magic 250 gram figure. and without a battery it weighs 137 grams, so quite a lightweight model for its size. And of course you could stick a HD camera on there. I would recommend the Mobius Mini on the top to save a bit of weight. You probably could modify this if you wanted to for a split, but we've got the wrong stack size and I imagine we might struggle with the camera fitting in there as well. You probably modify it a little bit there, but I'm not going to be doing that for this video. One thing I want to talk about with this model is the locking nuts for the motors. So the propellers don't come fitted out of the box. In fact, it doesn't fit in the box with the propellers on, which is fine. But you can see here that the motor shaft protrudes quite a lot through the top of the locking nut, and that is a bit of a problem because in order to get the nut to screw to the bottom of the propeller, you have to go through the locking mechanism, and it's tough because there's no way to hold the motor when it gets to that part. You don't have any tool to sort of keep the motor steady. So what I found helps is if you get a hex driver or a screwdriver and just sort of wedge it in the corner of the motor, and then I used a socket set to tighten it up and I managed to do it. But yeah, quite tricky if you are just trying to tighten them up with your hand. I couldn't do it, so yeah, you might want to just use something flat. Really, a screwdriver might do some damage, but these are flat and you can just sort of hold it there and it put some resistance against the motor whilst it's tightening up. So let's take a look at some of the other stuff you get in the box. You don't get much. You get a spare set of these propellers. You get some cable ties and heat shrink, quite a few of those, and that's what I used here to put the antenna up there. So it's not like that out of the box, but you are given the resources to do that. There's that Velcro pad there, but I'm not going to be putting that on the battery. You get a camera lens cap, which I'll lose. You get the instructions for the XM, and that's about it. You've already seen the instructions for the VTX. There's no Betaflight setup whatsoever. It just seems to have stock Betaflight on there, so I will take you into Betaflight and we will take a look at what I have set up. Okay, so here we are in the Betaflight configurator. You get it from the Chrome App Store. I've got the quadcopter connected to the computer via a USB cable. You do not get one of those in the package, so you have to supply that yourself. You can see it says COM27 up the top there, and I'm going to connect to it. So as I say, it's come with version 3.17. You might want to flash version 3.2 because it's a lot better, but I'm not going to do that for this video, but I will show you how to save the settings if you want to do that. So if we just check the ports out, it's got the serial RX on the UR3 for the receiver. If we go into configuration, it's set up as D-Shot 600 out of the box. It did have motor stop turned on, so I've turned that off, just my preference. I've set the motor idle to 5. It was 4.5 out of the box, but I'm sure that's going to be fine. You can see it's got a 180-degree alignment on the yaw, so you might want to remember that if you have any issues when updating Betaflight. If we come down here, I've put the craft name in as X140 just so it shows up on the on-screen display. We've got serial-based receiver and S-bus down here for the receiver. All this is just stock. I haven't changed any of it. So we've got LED strip on there and SD card probably not in use, I don't think. Yeah, no data flash found either. So if we come down here, VBAT settings I've changed just to a little bit lower, so 2.9 on the warning and then 3.2 on the minimum cell voltage for the final warning. A little bit lower than I do on a 5-inch just because of the battery size, and I'm going to be able to monitor the battery through the on-screen display anyways. So that's everything there. If we go into PID tuning, I have changed the PIDs. It was just stock Betaflight PIDs. This is what I'm going to be using today, so if you want to use them as well, you're welcome to. The RC rate I've kept at 1 and the super rate at 0.8. That's just my preference. Nothing else changed in there. Receiver I've set it up as TAER 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how my Tyrannus is set up. I hear some Tyrannuses come with AETR these days, so yeah, you might want to check that out. The XM has come with the RSSI set on channel 16, so if you set the AUX 12 to RSSI, then you can read that out on the on-screen display. There's no mode set up whatsoever, so I've got to ARM on the AUX 2 on a 2-position switch on the Tyrannus. I then got air mode on the AUX 1, so that ties up with acro down here, so we've got acro and air, and then I've got angle and normal acro on one position and on the second position here. I've got anti-gravity as well, tying up with air mode, and then I've got beeper on the AUX 3 for a lost model alarm. It is running D-Shot, so we don't need to calibrate any ESCs. The on-screen display, the camera is PAL, so I've moved my things around here. I've removed the crosshairs and the artificial horizon. I've got my voltage, I've got the craft name, I've got the mode, and then the flight time and the RSSI here. LED strip, this is just set up as standard here. If we go into the CLI, I'll just show you the version, so 3.17. If you want to save the LED settings, then just type in diff and then copy all of this into a text document. This is the difference from the stock Betaflight settings, and then you can paste that once you've upgraded to version 3.2 or whatever. Make sure you press save, or type save should I say, after you've entered that information. So I'm just going to disconnect from here, and then I'm going to plug a battery in, and make sure you've got the props off when you do this. And I'm just going to go into BL Heli Suite just to show you the version. Why not? Might as well whilst I'm here. So I'm just going to connect that. Make sure you disconnect from Betaflight before you try. This is also on the Chrome App Store, and you will see there we've got version 16.6 on here. And actually, 2 of them are reversed, so they have gone on there, manually done that. So yeah, that is all of the setup. Okay, so here we are looking through the goggles. Now I know this might make this video a little bit too long, but I'm really interested to see what settings are in this camera. So I've connected up my Runcam controller. I'm going to press enter and let's have a look. Oh dear. That is not my language at all. Luckily I can read Chinese, so this is the language. There we go, English, look at that. So we've got cam title, exposure options. Oh my, yeah, this is looking very similar to the Runcam settings, although the dynamic range is not doing much there. It might be because I'm inside. Look at that, change the shutter and everything. Man, I'd be interested to see what the price of this camera ends up being. Got different white balances there, that's working. Then we've got backlight off, day, night, color, black and white. Oh man, it is just like a copy, isn't it? Image adjust, so let's see, we've got mirror, shading, all the things you would expect from a CCD camera, even the DPC, and then we can exit. So no on-screen display with this one, so it's a copy, I guess, of the Swift 1 and not the Swift 2, so no VBAT or anything like that, but that is fine for this model. Okay, let's go for a takeoff with this one. Just starting off in angle mode for now. This is the actual maiden. So this is with the Turnigy graphene battery, 750 milliamp 4S. Let's go for a punch. It's a noisy thing. These punches always look less impressive on the GoPro, and that's because it's got a wide field of view, so it actually goes out of the view of my eyesight before it does the camera. And people always say, give it more Wally. I can't. I need more field of view in my eyes. So it's got a nice amount of punch, definitely. But as they are a lower kV motor, it's more suited for a 4S. which is fine really. But you could argue that there are some smaller models out there running 2S, like the Leader 120, with probably a similar amount of power. But that's fine too. Of course, you're going to be able to carry a HD camera with this one easier. Okay, I think that's enough on the punch outs. Let's try acro. Yeah, seems nice actually. I have messed around with the PIDs. They're just stock Betaflight 3.17 PIDs, so thought I'd tinker with those a little bit. This is a nice looking thing. Not too noisy, but it's not quiet either. It screams, but the throttle seems smooth. We've got no vibrations. Really snappy. I think this is a good one. Really strange doing acro with a stretched X, just on the orientation. I mean, it's actually easier, but if you're used to the normal X's, then it takes a little bit of getting used to. Not hearing the beeper go off at the top of the throttle, so seems like this is a nice combination. Quite normal these days to put too much power through the motors and we get too much amp draw, but I think this combination is actually going to be a nice sweet setup. I mean, I dare say that it would suit a 5S. Feels like there's more power to give, but the motors are only spec to 4S. Might be worth trying. Oh, this is really nice. Pretty quick. Okay, let's give it a bit of abuse and see what the motors are like, how warm they are. It should be fine because, like I say, lower kV, but still, you know, high kV for this type of model, don't get me wrong. Right, let's come in for a landing and let's have a feel of the motors. Just lukewarm, not too hot, not too cold. Let's get and do some FPV with it. Okay, so here is some DVR footage taken from my Fatshark Dominator HD3. So yes, you're going to need a transmitter and FPV goggles with this package, which is obviously going to increase the price. But this thing flies absolutely fantastic, and the camera, I have to say, I was really impressed with as well. I don't think it's quite as sharp as a Micro Swift, but oh, it's very close. It's either a CCD camera or a very good CMOS camera. I don't know, what do you think? I thought it was great. It was a very gloomy day, and it seems to be picking up all of the clouds and the ground in the same picture at the same time. The reception's very good. There's loads of airtime, and there's not a lot of voltage sag either. It's been quite refreshing because a lot of these models that I get these days, you do full throttle and you instantly go down to 13 volts. Not with this one, full throttle and it sags down to about 14 volts, something like that. So very acceptable these days, I think. And if you were coming from a 5-inch model, then you might think that this one is a little bit underpowered, but I think it's the perfect setup. And I also think you could go higher on the pitch with the props. So 3030 is quite a low pitch, so it's screaming, but actually there's not a lot of thrust there compared to, I don't know, say a 3040 or 3045. So it's going to be definitely worth trying out different propellers, but I just love how it flew like this. Great flight time as well, 4-minute flight time, giving it full abuse. And yeah, really happy with the tune. It's the same tune that you saw earlier in the Betaflight setup. I imagine you might have to change that if you wanted to stick a Mobius Mini on there. So yeah, I would recommend that, because I think maybe sticking a session on there would just bog it down too much, unless you want to start messing about with the props and stuff. But yeah, incredible package for the price. There's just a couple of things to note. As I say, with my model, I had missing screws underneath. Now, I keep spare screws, but I run a review channel, so I have to do that. You might not have that. However, there was enough to go around with just one screw missing from each motor. And if you're expecting a Runcam Swift Micro, it's not that, but it's just as good. It's really good. I mean, look at the sky here. It's picking it up nicely. You might get caught out with the locking nuts. So yeah, I've mentioned that too. And the fact that the antenna is directly soldered to the VTX means that you can't switch it out for a cloverleaf. I mean, that would have been nice, but you can see here, even with a whip antenna, I'm getting good reception, I think, and you can boost it up to 100 milliwatt too if you want to, so that's really good. And the XM receiver here, you can see I've got the RSSI going as well, so I mean, it's just a bit of a gimmick really for where I'm flying, but if you're flying longer distances, then that might be useful to you. But just look at this camera quality. I can see the clouds there. Yeah, I think it's a CCD camera, yeah. So, I think they potentially have cloned it. But there you go. Anyway, that is my review of the FuriBee X140. Despite some little things, I do think it's a really good model, especially for the price as well. So I'll put a link in the description if you wish to get one. And as always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.